Now, as some of you may know, I'm no big fan of GB News, and my suspicions were confirmed after GB News kept selling itself, and still is, by the way, as the home of free speech. And then they sack 4 presenters, well, 3 of them for stating opinions, and the other one for sticking up for his mates. So the home of free speech, GB News, isn't. Calvin Robinson himself told us after they sacked him that behind the scenes GB News is intent on becoming a member of the biased mainstream media, the legacy media cabal. And you can see this on screen with their presenters. I don't think most of them believe half the things they spew on screen, but there you go. So anyway, it was the Reform Party's manifesto reveal in South Wales yesterday. And me personally, I think it's quite the radical policy. It's the medicine that the patient requires, and Great Britain is on its sickbed currently. And that's thanks to people voting more of the same with Labour and the Conservatives for the past 100-odd years. And so Richard Tice, being the Reform Party chairman, popped onto GB News to get interviewed by Camilla Tominey. And let's just get this straight about Richard Tice. Whether he's establishment or not, I don't know. But recently, well, the guy has always behaved like he is, in my eyes anyway. Richard Tice has said and done things which simply don't resonate with Reform's core voters. Anyway, I've done those videos. And so he popped onto GB News to be interviewed, and considering that GB News advertises itself, sells itself as a centre-right political news channel, it certainly didn't behave like that with Richard Tice. And yes, Reform's manifesto should be scrutinised, but this was something else. Now I've said, haven't I, GB News is slowly morphing into Sly News. And I think now that Camilla Tominey, she is slowly morphing into Sly News' Kay Burley. Probably the worst ever journalist and news presenter in British history. Even her body language was just, it showed contempt. She looked down her nose at Richard Tice, and the words she used, calling them liars. And it was a shocking interview. She really went for the throat here. She was asking questions, giving her opinions, and didn't allow him to answer without interrupting. And they can do this now, can't they? Because Nigel Farage is no longer part of GB News. They've got rid of right-wingers like Lawrence Fox, Calvin Robinson, Dan Wootton, and of course Mark Stein. And I think the only one left is Neil Oliver, and even he's heavily censored. You can only watch the censored version of his show on Sundays. And why Neil Oliver is accepting this is just beyond me, considering what the guy talks about. And again, I'll say this, as a news channel, it is right to scrutinise a political party's manifesto, but this was something else. And even if you read the GB News article regarding this interview online, the language they're using is shocking. They're calling Reform liars. They're claiming Richard Tice was frustrated and snapped back at her. And she kept quoting economic think tanks, and as we all know, economic establishments in this country, they're infested by the people who wouldn't watch usually GB News or vote for Reform. It really was a car crash interview. GB News really has changed since its inception as a news channel that was going to be different to all the others, and that was a premise I was really excited about, but it's just a big massive letdown. GB News is establishment. It won't be long before they tear into and go after Nigel Farage himself, because they want to be in the mainstream media club, don't they? Mark my words, folks, it'll happen. And there we go. I'm past 49. Thanks for listening. And until the next time, Roger Trout.